Whoa, what just happened there?
This is surprisingly appropriate for WWE 2K20. WWE 2K20 is a mess. The pro wrestling series has never been known for its polish, but this year, just about every issue that has plagued WWE 2K is even worse. It's bursting at the seams with bugs. Many of its character models look notably worse than last year. The lighting effects glitch constantly, there are virtually no improvements to the actual wrestling, which feels woefully outdated at this point. Its biggest new feature, the 2K Originals, is locked behind DLC and isn't playable at launch. The My Career mode retains all of the same problems of last year, but with none of the charm, and, perhaps worst of all, the collision detection and targeting is somehow way worse than ever before.
Avoided that attack and hit back even harder.
It's not worse than the completely unmitigated disaster that was the Switch version of WWE 2K18, but WWE 2K20 is nonetheless a Braun Strowman-sized step back for the series. Last year's WWE 2K19 was a major turning point in the series when it came to the marquee single-player mode, My Career, which offered a lengthy, fully voiced campaign with a decent story, strong acting from the lead characters, and great support from actual WWE superstars. It wasn't a complete Stone Cold Stunner by any means, but it laid the foundation of what could be a great story mode going forward. But, of course, like so much else in WWE 2K20, the attempt to do so misses the mark.
I'm going to get help.
The story revolves around both the hot-headed Red and her best friend Trey, who, well, he's a complete idiot.
Help! Help! My toe's stuck!
Everything is framed as a literal to-do list that Trey and Red maintain, including things that range from typical WWE goals like win the Royal Rumble to bizarrely specific ones like wrestle in the Crybaby match. You cross them off the list one by one, covering everything from their earliest years of wrestling on the indie scene to their big break at NXT and even their literal dream matches. It's a nice way to frame My Career that avoids a complete retread of WWE 2K19, but inside that framework is an incredibly dull story. It takes way too long for Red and Trey to make it to the WWE, and both the subplots involving the secrets that Trey and Red keep from each other and the rivalry between Red and her childhood bully fall completely flat.
I'm gonna take that marker, bring it to your grandmother's nursing home, and cross out parts of her chart so when the nurse goes to give her turn-down service, she won't know to flip her over. That's right, I'm gonna give your grandmother bed sores.
That's not to say it's completely devoid of high points, though. Samoa Joe in particular turns in an incredibly entertaining performance that's on par with some of his best work on WWE TV. Moments where the story dives deep into fantasy are also great, but these moments are too few and far between to lift the campaign out of its rut.
What the? Is this about me messing with the lantern? I just wanted to get a closer look. It's antique, right?
Our fun is just getting started.
The same character progression issues that hamstrung last year's My Career are present as well. There are still loot boxes that serve as a barrier between you and the game's gigantic wealth of customizable features. You can't use real money on them, and you can still buy items a la carte for ludicrously expensive costs, but it's still super frustrating to rely so much on chance when it comes to equipping your wrestlers. The way you get skills and attributes isn't much better. The skill trees involved with character progression are super convoluted, you can't plan your build because you can't see what hexes are coming up next, and the attribute bonus themselves are so minor, you really can't feel the difference unless you bank up points, which there's no reason to do. Outside of My Career, very few things have changed, and of those that have, even fewer are for the better. There's a new showcase mode that takes you through the story of WWE's Women's Revolution by letting you relive key matches in the careers of the Four Horsewomen, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. While it's wonderful that such an important event in women's wrestling is getting the spotlight, WWE 2K20 still hasn't fixed the underlying issue from last year's showcase. Individual matches take far too long, and there are no mid-match checkpoints. Beyond that, the changes are a grab bag of tweaks that often do more harm than good. Default controls have been changed in odd ways for seemingly no reason, new promo lines and cutscenes have been added to the universe mode, Create a Belt is no longer available, reportedly to be patched in later, and there are a couple of wild new paybacks like this.
Tuning in? This is Hell in a Cell.
That's actually pretty cool. But the biggest difference is just how sloppy the actual wrestling feels to control. WWE 2K games have had years that were relatively light on new features before, but they've always been able to get by because the wrestling itself has been consistently solid thanks to years of iteration and improvement. But with 2K20, the wrestling is actually significantly worse than it was before. Targeting feels terrible. The AI flip-flops between being dumb as bricks and being a literal machine that effortlessly reverses every finisher you throw its way. Weapons miss when they feel like they should hit, and hit when they feel like they should miss, and limbs and objects clip through each other constantly. None of these issues are entirely new, but they happen much more frequently in 2K20 than in prior years. Then there are the bugs. Over the course of my playtime, I have encountered characters being completely invisible in cutscenes.
Do you think he heard what we said?
Who cares? He's a loser.
Constant lighting-related glitches, including one scene where the characters were covered in shadows the whole time, stairs sinking into the mat after powerbombing a wrestler into them, causing a nightmare scenario where the stairs then try to erupt through the mat, Bianca Belair's hair turning into what can only be described as a petrified snake, Becky Lynch's backlash attire turning into an abomination in the character editor mode, a hard crash whenever I tried to remove Kane's mask in the editor, commentary getting moves wrong,
DDT!
and so much more.
From Washington, D.C., weighing in at 290 pounds, the Animal,
The WWE 2K games have always been pretty buggy, but 2K20 is well beyond what should be acceptable for a $60 game. The frequent crashes make it extremely discouraging to want to start it up again. And while some of the glitches that happen mid-match can be entertaining in their own way, they also are frequent enough that they quickly lose their charm. I'd also like to tell you about the 2K originals, but unfortunately it's still not playable, which sucks, especially for those that pre-ordered the game expecting to be able to use the Fiend at launch. WWE 2K19 looked like it stopped the downward trend for the series, but WWE 2K20 doubles back, breaks its ankle, and tumbles down the slope. Fundamental parts that felt totally fine in WWE 2K19 now feel clumsy. The impressive roster of over 200 superstars is all but meaningless when a majority of them look like this. And while 2K20's My Career mode offers a better wrestling story mode than previous WWE 2K games, that's a low bar to clear. And it's still saddled with bad progression and a plodding pace. This is a mess that 2K needs to clean up, and clean up in a hurry. As the Fiend says, yowie wowie. For more WWE 2K20, check out a full match captured in 4K, along with the entrance of the Fiend. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.